Hi, I'm Jason of Endless Wave Dynamics, where every week I'll be on the front line of your creative business battles. So it's kind of a long one, so the video's been split into two parts. If you haven't already, go back and check out the other episode before this one, part one. In this episode, we're going to be talking about making jokes and then landing the job of a lifetime without ever showing a hint of your talent. Surrounding yourself with people in the right direction that you want to head in, allowing the world to see you in the right aesthetic light and branding yourself like a business, stepping outside of your limitations and developing tastes in areas that can be financially sound, then allowing yourself creative space around that. Also finishing up with some tips on work and life balance, relaxing, and seeing your friends a bit more. Enjoy. People are not necessarily buying your talent, they're buying you as a person.
Mm-hmm. Massively, I agree.
So, I mean, you mentioned earlier about how you ended up with your audition with LaRoux, and you want to tell us about that? I mean, that really emphasises that point.
Yeah, so I mean, it started originally, I knew, I put something on Facebook. I got told about a friend that LaRoux was looking for a drummer, and
again, through a friend.
Through a friend, of course. Put something on Facebook asking if anyone knew the manager, and another friend of mine who I'd worked with when I was a Cub Scout said, I sit next to him at work in the same office, which was helpful. So I got him to put in a good word, and then I sent an email in with to LaRoux with my CV and some pictures, and I kind of wanted to, I didn't want to be anyone that I wasn't, I didn't want to go in and be told what to wear really or anything like that. I was still a bit stubborn, I was 20 or whatever. So I sent pictures of me, I dress in a kind of quite old man kind of way. So I sent my pictures in the way that I dressed. I hope she liked that and stuff, and she did, and that kind of fit with her aesthetic at the time and all this kind of stuff. And then I had an audition. I went in the first time. I chatted to the rest of the band just to see if we got on. One of them asked me what the rudest joke was I know. I told them a really horrible joke, and we've been best friends ever since.
But you got that place without even playing drums?
Without playing drums. And then I came in for my second interview. I met Ellie and we got on really well. And then the third audition was a rehearsal room with just me and some drums and the guys. And they were like, look, please tell me you can play drums, because we got on really well. So I think I'd kind of got the job before I'd done any drumming, which is great. And that's why they're my best friends now to this day. We're family. And it's why I've been there for 6 years, and that's why you're out here.
And it's why you're able to get a visa and come out here and play as a session musician for other people.
Exactly. She gave me my life on that. Literally, all my friends that I've met from now, all the girlfriends I've met, all the jobs I've done, are all through those auditions in that band.
And it all came through you not actually playing drums, even though you were being eyed for your talent. So I mean, that's a huge takeaway that people need to apply this kind of thing. I often say that when you go into a conversation with someone, you shouldn't necessarily be talking about the subject material. You should literally just open by talking about any kind of random thing that means something to you and build rapport in that kind of way. Like the joke aspect that you just said, it's amazing that you can do that without actually even playing drums.
Exactly. Well, I mean, whatever, whether it's music or film or photography or any kind of creative, people want to work with people they like, and people want to make friends. It may be work, but you want more friends. That's great. Meeting inspiring new people who you share similar views and interests with is what everyone wants. And I think that if you can get that through work and spend some time with someone you like, as opposed to someone who's just going to get the job done. Because, like I said to you earlier, there's a million better drummers than I am. Yeah. There's people who are so much more talented than me, but I get on with people quite well, and we have
that gets you your next job.
That usually gets me my next job.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so you mentioned earlier about that you sent some photos in to LaRoux originally. I'm just wondering how much your self-branding and the development that you put behind that affects your next job, and also reflects getting jobs on, say, maybe television or adverts or all those kind of things. Or
I think massively. I think that image is important. I think marketing and branding and all that is as important for the musicians individually as it is for the whole. Like everyone, they do certain things, dress certain ways, buy certain cars, do all that kind of stuff because they want the world to see them in a certain light. Everyone has that. I have that. You have that. And with work, I didn't want to ever be something I wasn't. Having to stump your creativity, whether it be how you express yourself and what you wear or what you do. I never wanted to do anything I didn't want to do. Otherwise, I'd have got a job, an office job. The reason of being drumming is because you want to be free and you want to, do what you want. So certainly like with LaRoux, I sent pictures of exactly how I dressed. If she liked it, fantastic. If she didn't, that's not going to work. I did it in the way an aesthetic of the photo was taken, I believe, by my friend Lucy Bridger, and she took a really good photo, and I liked how she took photos, so I got her to take it. And as opposed to kind of getting a really professional glossy headshot, I wanted it to look a bit more arty, because that's kind of how I like the aesthetic of photographs to look. And I think with Ellie, she's dressed incredibly well. She's very stylish, all that kind of stuff. And I was hoping that was going to help with that too.
You're saying it's really important to actually have a self-brand, like as far as your website and as far as other things that all come together coherently.
I think it's very important. I think that if I was wanting to work in hip hop, for example, I'd need to look and brand and act in a much different way than I do. And in this day and age, the important thing is online. I'm sure I'd be tweeting about different things, or I'm sure my Instagram pictures would be a lot different if hip hop was the world I wanted to be in. Whereas
so you cater your social media.
You do cater it, and I think more than actually kind of consciously catering it, I think the influence that you've been around, for example, hanging out with LaRoux for 6 years, has mean that I've been exposed to different things and then taken bits I like Brian Ferry, for example, I now realise he's one of the most fashionable men that's ever existed, but I wouldn't have known that had I not been introduced to Brian Ferry with LaRoux. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And then that becomes something you take on, just like you would with any friends and things like that. But certainly, it's the more jobs you take and the more things you like and the things you take away from that influences you for your next job. Like I'm not going to be picked up for a hip hop job. No. It's not going to happen, nor, am I that.
But you are like the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and so you've purposely surrounded yourself with the kind of people that you want to cater your
continue
career
to work with too. Like I'm sure the next job I do, I'm sure will be something of a similar kind of aesthetic and vibe to LaRoux. Like I work in a lot of kind of electronic pop music, one, because that's what I learned skill set wise because of doing this for this long, and also I think that people, who make similar music, say to Ellie, have similar influences and similar tastes. And if I've, have been learning all that too the last few years, I think we're going to also, our jobs in the future are going to, probably going to reflect on that.
Like, what's a really good thing is that you talked about the pop music aspect, but you've not really come from the pop music aspects in your own personal life. Like when I knew you like 10 years ago, we were playing in dingy rock clubs and not even clubs, just small bars. Knowing that where the money is, it's not necessarily a sellout thing to go next to the money, because now you've given yourself an opportunity to be creative and to do whatever you like. You've got time on your hands now to be able to play drums and in any style that you want to, be able to play in any kind of project that you want to play, because you've got this other earner that's capitalising on your skill, and you've been able to direct it in a certain way to be able to get paid.
Yeah. I mean, at 16, I'd have called myself a sellout. Of course I would have. Yeah. But that's, in a world when I thought that selling merch was selling out, it's unreasonable to think that. And I think that Cub Scout was the joining factor for me, in that I was a Cub Scout. We're a kind of electronic pop band, but we'd both come from enjoying punk music, hardcore music, that kind of thing. I drummed like I thought I was in Nirvana. I had long blonde hair, and it was the kind of mix of getting into the more mainstream world. And the bands we were playing with were not Bring Me the Horizon anymore or whatever. It was bands like Panic at the Disco. It was slightly more poppy bands, and then learning
about to excel
and like learning about hooks, learning about choruses, learning about things like this, which you don't really think about too much in punk, or we didn't, certainly. So that kind of started with my taste, and then I kind of realised that I didn't want to just do that as a hobby. I wanted to do it as a job, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that as a job if I wanted to do punk music. And now there are a lot of successful punk bands, and there are a lot of successful hardcore bands that do very well off it, a small amount, but it also wasn't the whole world I wanted to be in. I've always wanted to like run a business, this kind of thing. I've always wanted to work, negotiating fees and this kind of thing. I wanted to be a booking agent to start with, working out with these different things. And with pop music and being a session musician, these are the kind of things you have to do. You have to, like you said earlier, you have to do invoices and then, like negotiating and working out travel schedules and making sure you can do all this. And this side of the planning is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And yes, again, you can do this in punk music, but it's rare. And for me, I wanted to do some TV. I wanted to do Radio Live Lounge, all this kind of stuff. And I knew that could be done with this other side of what I enjoyed, the more pop side. And I kind of made a conscious decision at about 20 that's the kind of world I wanted to go in. I was living with my parents when I was a Cub Scout, and God bless them, I love them to pieces, but I didn't want to live there through my 20s. I wanted to still manage to have a life that my friends that were working proper jobs were getting, where they were finally moving out and getting their own place and all this kind of stuff. I wanted to find the kind of middle ground where I could do what I loved and also actually have a kind of normal, healthy grown-up life.
You're achieving a complete life balance by doing that.
Yes.
You're allowing yourself to be happy because you're catering to your creative side and doing what you want, but you've also got your head screwed on.
Trying, yeah.
So I often said to my guests, I often ask, is there anything that you would have liked to have said to yourself 10 years ago to save yourself thousands of pounds of money or a decade worth of time or all these kind of things, because it's quite easy to just only talk about the good things about being a creative entrepreneur and having decent success out of it, but it's the struggles that you come up against while you're involved in them that make the difference. And I'm just wondering if there's any kind of advice that you would have said to yourself back then that could really help yourself out.
Strangely, it kind of, in a way, reflects on personal life. I'd have told myself to see my friends more, like a lot of people say when they're kind of, getting to starting to get to their 30s and realising, that I spent a lot of my years away. And obviously touring is what I wanted to do, but there were times where I'd come back from tour and I'd have to lock myself away because I needed a bit of space, from having a lot of people. I think I would have liked to have... But then, you know what, I say that to you now, but I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Today I'm really, really happy, and life is exactly where I want it to be.
Yeah.
So,
those struggles are a part of it.
It's part of it, and I say, see my friends more, but by not seeing my friends at that point, it meant I work more, and it meant I can now, at the moment, I'm currently taking 2 months off touring, and it meant I could see my friends much more in this time than it could if I was working every day, so I don't know, I think relax would have been something I'd tell myself, relax and keep going, really,
The 3-year plan of being able to say, all right, this is what I want to do, I'm going to struggle.
Yeah.
Then the next year being I'm getting some results from this. Yeah. And then the third year being exactly where you want to be.
Yes, exactly that. I think I would tell myself to not stress too much. That's one thing I'm learning now, and actually, not to panic, not to be greedy, not to do anything like that, but just at that moment, if you're happy or you know exactly what you want to do, whether it be take 2 months off when you should be working, or if it's, disappearing for a month and going to Italy, or doing whatever, I think this goes for life, not just work. I think just go with it, because there's not enough time. And I'm only realising this in the last 6 months,
Amazing.
And I'm so much happier because of it. I really am. And and not to stress too much. I know I'm never going to be homeless. I know that's not going to happen. I can always go back home. I'm never going to completely run out of money, and I think I'll always be able to find a band that I want to be in.
Yeah, you've always got a sofa to sleep on.
Exactly, and that's, there's the rest of it all comes down to, a bit of greed sometimes. You can want to work hard because you want to see the numbers totting up in your bank account a bit, but that's not what life's about. I'm realising this, and you need to do what makes you happy, whatever that is.
Yep. Thanks very much, Will. Amazing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jason.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that one. Out of the near 10 years that I've known Will, I never knew this story about how he landed this job with LaRoux. It's amazing. It totally proves what I've been talking about here with Endless Wave Dynamics. People do buy you more than your talent. Bridging the conversation with jokes landed him that opportunity that paved the way for the rest of his career. Then branding himself creatively has allowed him to maintain that momentum. I love the stuff about the pop music. I come from a very punk rock background where the word sellout gets thrown around a lot. I know he's battled with this himself, but he's come out of it knowing that he's made the right decisions because he gets to play drums in a well-paying career that allows him to live a very inspiring lifestyle. I love this and I hope you did too. Check out part 1 of this interview if you didn't already to hear about finding your own path and not following someone else's, building relationships that get you there, influencers and mentors, and tour bus living. To show your support and subscribe in YouTube or in iTunes, I make this content to help creative people in the area that I've struggled most in my career. If you feel you're struggling with yours, or you feel like you overcome some huge hurdle in your productive performance, then guess what? I'd love to hear about it. So get in touch. Like and follow me on Facebook, and let's have a chat about how we can bring out the best creative in you or in others. Thanks.